Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the chance to network in the virtual lounge. Next up, Retailers Speak. New research unpacks the toughest digital challenges of the next 12 months. Presented by Neha Sampat, CEO of Contentstack, and Jasmin Guthmann, VP and Executive Board Member of the MACH Alliance, also with Contentstack. Neha and Jasmin, over to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Neha. I am with Contentstack and I'm here to present to you about Retailers Speak, a new study that unpacks the toughest challenges of the next 12 months. In today's agenda, we're going to cover who we are, a survey that we recently conducted, what we uncovered as some of the main marketing gaps in the world today, and how we can maybe encourage you to do something different and how to get started. Let's jump in by looking at this guy. We've all been this guy before at some point. Again, I'm Neha, I'm here with Jasmin, and we're going to help unpack some of the toughest challenges that we've uncovered that we see coming down the road in the next 12 months. And hopefully we'll give you some good solutions too. Content is a really big job today, and we've developed technology that makes that job simpler and way more integrated. We like to break down barriers for businesses to provide better customer experiences. And it's really important that we like to make experts be experts. Whether you're a technologist or a creative, you should be able to do what you love. It's important to note that a lot of this comes from the principles of MACH architecture. Contentstack and the team here are pioneers in the MACH ecosystem. MACH stands for Microservices, API First, Cloud Native, and Headless. And if you've heard this term before, or if you haven't, I promise you you're going to start to see it a lot, and we're going to be referencing it in this presentation as well. In terms of this global retailer survey, we essentially, as users of MACH technology and as implementers of MACH technology, it's really important for us to be able to break down barriers to what it takes to build great customer experiences. And in order to do that, we really need to know what's happening and have a pulse on the market. So we conducted this survey to make it easy for us to do that. With over 350 respondents globally, most at the director level and above, and most in large enterprise companies, we've uncovered some major challenges that are coming down our pike and have ways that we want to address those. The big takeaway is that the pace and the complexity of managing digital retail businesses is going to increase over the next 12 months. And that creates some challenges. Less than half of retailers believe that they can effectively manage all aspects of their digital operations over the next 12 months. Less than half. That's scary for some. Where retailers struggle to meet demands is in three major areas. Well, actually in 5 major areas, but the 3 areas that are impacted most by the content world are the first 3. We see content marketing, engagement channels, and digital assets as areas where we can help address some of these gaps. So let's dig into some of these gaps.
And let's start with the one that's probably the biggest and coming at you the fastest. Gap number 1 is the demand for content is growing, and unfortunately more than retailers believe they can handle. And let's have a look at why that is. And the key term here is personalization. Looking back, content really served top of funnel. So it was only responsible for a portion of everything that was going on. Now fast forward to today, content is the funnel and the product is really at the very bottom of it. Now, what does that mean, or how does that tie into the overall picture? If we look at the broader landscape, 67% of retailers expect the number of digital assets that they use to grow over the next 12 months. Because if you want to personalize an experience, you need more assets. It's as simple as that. Now, how are retailers feeling about that? Most of you say, I'm not prepared to deliver that. 32% of retailers believe they will be effective in managing the number of their digital assets. So 1/3 is comfortable, which also means on the flip side that 2/3 are not. 2/3, 71% of retail marketers also state that their top challenge over the next 12 months is mixing content marketing with product listings, so really merging those worlds seamlessly to enable personalized pricing, personalized messaging, and really a much, much more seamless user experience. On top of that, a 21 McKinsey study shows that if you want to be successful, you need to dig into personalization. The companies that grow faster drive 40% more of their revenue from personalization than their slower growing counterparts. So if you want to be ahead of the competition, personalization is going to be key. Let's look at an example of what that could look like done well. Iceland Air is an airline. The name is pretty telling. But their biggest challenge was translations. Hold on to your seat. The way they did translations was by spreadsheets. Every single line that had to be translated had to be a separate cell in a spreadsheet. And every time you wanted to change something, you had to create a new spreadsheet, fill in a new line, and you can imagine how long that took. Forever and a day. Now they've moved to a headless CMS and an API-first translation service and an agents integrator, and voila, they can actually deliver translations 70% faster by applying the MACH principles that Neha mentioned in the beginning. And for them, that is not just great customer service, it also has a really big impact on their revenue.
All right, let's jump into the second gap, which is omnichannel. If we look at omnichannel, it's not new. It's becoming more of a single channel with lots of different flavors of interaction. We can strive to understand the user and intersect what they care about through all those points of interaction. There's more channels now than ever before to manage. And what's interesting is that most retailers struggle with the number of channels to effectively manage. There's everything from storefronts to chat to print to websites to mobile to tablets to games, even fuel pumps, store kiosks, social, billboards, all kinds of things. And we're consuming more and more content digitally in different places. And then add on to that, frictionless buying experience is becoming more required across all these channels. And being able to consume content, but also easily interact and transact is becoming more important. People are actually buying through TikTok now, if you don't believe it. So frictionless is really, really important. And it's not slowing down. Omnichannel demand continues to go up, and over the next 12 months, we're seeing that 60% of engagement channels will continue to increase when it comes to omnichannel. So what are companies doing about it? One example is Retail Me Not, which if you haven't used it before, you should. It helps you make smart buying decisions online. And they went from a very engineering heavy, unstandardized process to being able to do things really quickly. And the pain point that they had is that they wanted to be able to take the decoupling of all the content that they're creating and making it available across many channels. They wanted to be able to make lots of choices, make lots of changes, be really agile. And this comes directly from the principal engineers at Retail Me Not that just demonstrated that they couldn't do it with the technology that they had. And by using Contentstack and other technologies across the MACH ecosystem, they're able to push deals to several different mediums, websites, mobile, tablets, social media platforms, and update them really frequently so they can do things at the pace at which their consumers are consuming the content. This is super important across a lot of retailers.
Which brings us to gap number 3. 3 out of 4, stick with us. We're getting there, but this one is very, very obvious, and I'm sure you've experienced it. Speed these days is non-negotiable. Do you remember the pink slip dress crazy. If you were anywhere near TikTok or anywhere near a certain retailer's department store last year, I'm sure you've heard it. This happened within minutes, really. And TikTok really popularized that pink slip dress in no time, which tells you that it's super crucial if you're a retailer to push out updates in real time and be able to respond to that sudden surge in demand or interest no matter where it's coming from. And I think the other implication is it's really not something that you could plan for. Sometimes you just need to ride that wave as it comes along, and your systems and your processes need to be able to accommodate that type of sudden movement. So, you really want to make sure that you're set up, both in terms of ways of working, but also in terms of technologies, allows for you to roll out new experiences to different markets and really be up to speed with whatever is coming. Now, how many of you feel like you're keeping up? Unfortunately, really, not that many. 78% of the respondents in our survey say that it takes them 2 weeks or more. Take a moment to internalize that. 2 weeks or more to execute a standard marketing campaign. That is what old snail mail used to be like before the email came along, right? And now we're looking at the frequencies and the speed and the dynamics of TikTok. So 2 weeks doesn't cut it. And 63% of respondents say they struggle with the ability to make updates to existing content. So it's not just about creating new stuff and getting it to where it needs to be. Many of you already feel like even updating something that's already out there is harder than it should be, harder than you want it to be successful in the end. So really, flexibility is key, agility is key, being able to make changes quickly and reliably, and to put out new stuff when you need it. And a great example of how that can work is MS Sleep. MS Sleep is one of the most prominent companies that cares about your sleep. And they were really struggling. They came from a highly customized, but nonetheless what we call a legacy system. So it's one big system that has everything included, basically. And they were really unhappy because it took them long times. They were really trying to push the pace. Their people said, hey, I'm ambitious. I want to do stuff. I want to get stuff done, but I cannot with the tools that you're giving me. I'm handcuffed and I'm really not in a good place. So they realized what they needed was a composable tech stack that enabled them to launch new initiatives fast. And they actually fully transformed to a composable stack, a MACH stack, while running their $240 million business. And they didn't buy rip and replace, of course, because if you're running a $240 million business, you don't want to endanger even a penny of that, right? So what they did is they tested each platform with a POC, a proof of concept, and then they implemented the bits and pieces as they were ready, and they focused on one thing at a time and did that very well, and then moved on to the next thing. And even during the first year, that enabled the team to launch 39 new websites in a year. If I could give them a round of applause, I would, but that's the type of speed that you can actually run into if you're really on the right system and with the right people.
It's really remarkable, Jasmin, and the speed to value is what really stands out here. Before we jump into the tech gaps, I just want to say, for anyone else who's feeling ancient by the pink slip craze, you're not alone. I actually learned about it as a part of this conversation, so super, super interesting, and the world has changed around us. A lot of organizations feel like they don't have the right technology to close gaps and to do the work that they need to do. And it's challenging. It has been challenging for years. If we think about what kind of struggles we have on the technology side, it's really, if you look at the left side of this graphic, you're looking at something very complex, and it feels like there's a lot more to it and there's a lot more things added on. But these suites of technology that are the vintage software that we've invested in for years tend to be really hard to use because there's like little bits and pieces that you have to understand in order for it to all work together. Where on the right side, you can see something that's been cleaned up and made best of breed and just what you need in order to perform. And so, really this concept of moving to composable or mock architecture makes it easier for you to do the things that you need to. And retailers really need to be able to have a robust and scalable data and technology infrastructure, but not in a way that's overcomplicated and hard to use. Oftentimes, because the tool set doesn't work, people have to refer to IT. They feel like their dependency on IT impedes their ability to deliver on marketing, and really it stops them from being able to be creative. And this kind of idea of expecting delays becomes the norm. And if we go back to the Emma example, that's just not fun and it's not fair. Like, you're talented and you want to be able to do really cool things, and the IT team doesn't really want to get in the way, but they don't have the technology to allow you to do cool things. And so it's kind of like an everybody loses approach. And so finding ways to get around that is super important. And they're not the only ones that are frustrated. And in fact, the reason that Contentstack even exists is this whole tech versus marketing debate that happened at the very early days, I would say 15 years ago, when I, as one of the founders, was a marketing person trying to do really cool and interesting things and engaging my audience, working alongside my co-founder, who was on the technical side of things. And we'd have these debates about, why does your side make it so hard? And why does your side expect so much? And we realized we were both wrong, or both sides were wrong, because why shouldn't both sides be empowered to do their best work? And so we actually created Contentstack to help address the challenge that is that everyone's frustrated, but everyone's talented and should be able to do their best work. And why not empower both sides? And so the decoupling of the front end and the back end allows for some of that, and the simplification of how things are implemented allows for a lot of it as well. And that takes us to, it's time to do something different. So how do you do something different? How do you think about moving from a suite to a stack, or from a monolith to composable, or from vintage to new? And it starts with really thinking about integration and being able to integrate with the best of breed technologies, with existing technology that you've already invested in, and really thinking about things from an API first perspective so you can get to ROI quickly. And speed is, as we've heard now multiple times, is super important. The second piece is really about making it easy to scale. And that's really, in the SaaS world and the cloud native world, scalability needs to be able to move at the pace at which you move and at the pace at which demand exists. If you're launching a campaign for some event or for Black Friday, the cloud should scale with you. You shouldn't have to do anything special. Your solution should be omnichannel by nature, and that's really just the world that we're in today. It's the reality, the writing's on the wall. You can't not do this. So thinking about omnichannel as a core part of your strategy is super important. The reduction of IT dependency and really just making microservices possible, and then democratizing how those services and technologies are used so that you can empower different parts of your organization to do their best work, is critical in the way that you implement things. And then finally, how do we make it easier and quicker to build out and test new customer experiences? And that's really using all of these new technologies in a way that allows you to do things quickly, test things out, get real value fast, and then do the things that work well again. Here's an example of several companies that are already doing this today and have shown a lot of success in having moved to the composable architecture or to mock architecture with Contentstack.
And in case you're wondering, we've just looked at a full array of fantastic companies, big and small, but all with substantial businesses. If you're wondering, how did they get there? How can I get there? How can I, start doing these amazing things? And how can I enable my people to do the things that they signed up for in the beginning, right? Then it's easier than you think. And I think that's what we would love to to tell you, to take along with you. It doesn't have to be painful. MACH, composable architecture, is really about enablement. So start out with a very simple, considering the user journey and rethinking your existing architecture around it. So really, take a good look at what you've got and what is the most painful. And then really, as a second step, work through your digital transformation, which is a very individual journey in phases. You don't have to do it all at once. Start somewhere small, get comfortable with it, and most importantly, find the right support, which is already your step 3. You're really looking for partners on eye level. You want someone to be in there with you and by your side, because it's not an easy journey. You need to constantly be evaluating, you need to constantly be checking out what's working good, what's not, and then really just focus on the parts that are giving you the best return on investment. And that's what we strive to do at Contentstack. We're here for you all the way, and we want you to be successful. And that's what you should be looking for in anyone that you work with, really. Now, you don't have to take our word for it, because of course, we're convinced that we're doing the right thing. But actually, what I'd love to show you right now is a clip of one of our customers, Bob Howland. He's the Chief Digital Officer at Dawn Foods, and he happened to be the first guest on our brand new podcast, People Changing Enterprises. And what Bob talked about is developing the muscle. So let's hear it from Bob.
Got on the bus, we supported each other in doing it, and we delivered what is now a world-class product catalog, which is maintained. I think it has like a 99.9% accuracy every day. So it's a great living, breathing thing, and a muscle. I keep talking about this word muscle. It's a muscle that the marketing team has built, and it's a muscle that they show off a lot. They are very proud of what they've done, and to their credit, they did it. Right? We helped architect it, they did it, and they have a much better capability, a much better outcome than they've ever had before.
If you're keen to hear more, check out the podcast anywhere that you like to listen to our podcasts. We did talk to Bob a lot. He's been on a wonderful transformation journey with Dawn Foods. He's really a pioneer in the e-commerce business, so lots of brilliant nuggets of knowledge to pick out from there.
So remember this guy who was frustrated at the beginning of this conversation. And, we've all been there before. But if you can be a little bit more like Bob and some of the others that have been successful that we talked about, and really just bite off something small, celebrate that success, and then take it further and forward, you can be a little bit more like this guy. Which we can all be happier for and enjoy our digital transformation journeys. And thank you for listening. If we can ever be helpful at Contentstack, Jasmin and I are here, as well as the rest of the Contentstack tribe. Thanks again.
Thank you both. Our closing keynote presentation for day 1 is next, so don't miss it. John List, Chief Economist at Walmart and Professor of Economics at the University of Chicago, addresses AI and behavioral economics, achieving high voltage and succeeding at scale. And following his closing address, join us for our happy hour, where we'll engage in some learning and development around AQ, or adaptability, presented live by Paralympian Vanessa Lowe. I hope to see you there. But first, to join the closing keynote and later the happy hour, simply return to the Event Hub and click View Session.